Hey friends, I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about this episode before it starts. This is a super fun episode where me and Austin talk about our shared experiences singing in choirs for some major artists in their different tours. However, due to some non-disclosure type agreements, we are not able to convey in any way who the artist is. So what we've done is we had our full conversation as normal, and then afterwards we bleeped out the names of the artists as well as the locations of the concerts and any other details that might give away who the artist is. That way we would still be able to share these really awesome stories with you guys because they are a blast and it's a lot of fun. It's a super fun episode, so strap in. As always, thank you so much for listening and enjoy the show.
Hi friends, welcome to the Artist Blend.
Today we're talking about how made me throw up and other things involving large choirs.
So grab your mug
and let's get talking. That's good music.
I love that. Yeah, it's good.
I love
it. It's a good vibe.
Check out Christopher Bailey and Sarah Bailey from Well Wishes Productions.
Yes,
because they
please.
Made a really cool. Actually, they're going to be guests coming up
coming up soon.
Episodes,
yeah, so you'll get to meet the creators.
Yeah,
they're wonderful people. Very, very good friends of ours. So yeah, go check them out.
Yeah. A couple of housekeeping things.
Yes, please.
If you have not yet, please take a second to rate our show and give us a review. It's super helpful for our own engagement purposes, but also just kind of to know where we're at and what we can get better at and what we should keep doing. And it just shows us that you guys are interested and enjoying it. So it would mean a lot if you guys could take a second to rate and review.
Yeah, it's really helpful, as Easton said. We just want to know what you guys like. We're seeing some statistics. I can talk. I get paid for this. No, I don't.
Not yet, hopefully.
It's very helpful to know what you guys like. So far, everyone seems to be enjoying all the episodes evenly, but we want to know if you want to hear something else. And the best way to do that is to join our newsletter so we can actually talk to you guys way better than just comments. The comments and ratings help tremendously, but we want you guys to be as informed as we are about what's going on, and the best way to do that is to join our newsletter, which is in our link tree.
And then also in our link tree is a buy me a coffee link. So it's just a super simple way to support us. The stuff that we're doing is super fun and we love it, but it also costs money with the platforms that we use and the coffee beans and shipping coffee to each other and all that stuff. So if you want to help us out, you can just buy us a coffee. It's a little $5 gift, and chances are we probably will actually use it for coffee.
Yes.
So if you want to support us,
that is what it's going to be.
Yeah, literally that is what it will be for. So if you want to support us, just go do that. You can do like a $5 one coffee gift. You can do like 2 or 3 or 4 coffees. And yeah, so do that.
Yeah. So, and if you can't give monetarily as far as buying us a coffee, we are also requesting summer stock stories, which are free for you to tell us. And we are very good about keeping names out of it. If you're worried about anything like that, we just like to tell the stories because we enjoy hearing them. Because for myself, I haven't done any summer stock yet. I know Easton's been involved in a few, and within those circles, like the stories that he's heard is just absolutely hysterical.
I will refrain from sharing my stories because it is public where I worked. But there are some great stories out
Exactly.
there.
No, that's fine.
So send them in. Change names if you want to.
Yeah.
And then if you want us to edit names out, just like say,
just
don't say
let
names,
us know.
Please, and we won't. So
we won't.
Don't be afraid. Send them in. It's gonna be great.
And a great example of how we're going to do it is this episode, because we are talking about how made Easton, particularly, throw up.
Yeah,
and I also was on that
clickbait, but it's true.
But it is true. I also threw up on that experience too. But that's later in the episode, so stick around.
Today's coffee is from Foxtail Coffee. It's located in Florida. They roast them in Winter Park, which is literally 20-30 minutes from my house.
Oh, wow.
And they were super awesome. I went to the cafe and was like, hey, I'm just looking to sample some coffees. And they're like, oh, okay, here's some beans. And I was like, okay, how much? And they're like, just have it. And I was like, okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, we have the farmhouse blend today. So we will talk a little bit more about it.
But yeah.
And
we'll disclose a little more later on.
Yeah.
But no, they seem super, super, super nice people. And they also said within giving that they were going to follow the podcast. So if you're listening, thank you for the coffee, and we love to get your word out as much. Yeah, shout out.
The Foxtail, located inside the Tommy Hilfiger, located at the outlet mall in
within
Orlando,
Florida, within
in the United States, pinpoint. Milky Way.
So, starting today's episode, we're going to talk about private stories, changing names, and just our experiences within choir atmospheres, background singing, and whatnot. And Easton's going to kick it off with his experience in a cappella choir. So take it away.
We kind of wanted to just talk about lessons that we've learned from being in sort of a choir environment.
Yes, very much.
And for me, I grew up, my music journey started in the Church of Christ. I grew up going to a Church of Christ near Nashville, Tennessee, and I have always loved a cappella music, and I think that's a big reason as to why. For those that don't know, Church of Christ uses only voices in their worship. We don't use any instruments at all. And so I would spend every Sunday and every Wednesday hearing just pure music made from voices. And it was just something different that I think has kind of set me up as a music lover in life. And I really owe, I think, my appreciation for music and enjoyment of the craft to my upbringing in the church. And so that's sort of how I got started. What about you? What got you into music?
What got me into music is actually a funny story. So I was in probably about 4th grade, and I was too young to be home by myself. So often my sister would have to pick me up, and she was in high school at the time. Mm-hmm. And so oftentimes she would have choir rehearsal after school that she had to take me to. So within going to those, it's actually pretty funny because the conductor would cut them off, but he would hear the soprano line being sung somewhere. And it was little old 4th grade me sitting behind the bleachers, just patiently waiting quietly, but I would be picking up the melodies. And he was like, who's singing? And it was just little old me. So in 5th grade, there was a program that was only for 5th grade to 8th grade choirs that had started. In Tennessee, it was called Honor 58. I'm not sure if it's still around. I haven't heard anything or anything like that. But I auditioned, joined, got it, and that choir conductor was basically like, this boy has a future, he needs to keep doing it. And from there on, I basically was in choral classes and or clubs, whatever you want to call it, within private schools. And then didn't find, for those who know me and those who don't, I didn't find musical theater until I was 21. So somewhere within that age range. Before that, I was only in choral festivities, whether that be ACDA, which I went to 5 times, which went to different cities, and then later in life, before I found musical theater, I did barbershop harmony singing as well, which was both quartetting and chorusing, which I'll get to later. But that was my basic journey, was choral within school, and really just became the choir kid, but also wasn't what most people think of choir kids are. So
I was similar. I felt like I started sort of as the arts kid because I've said on a previous episode, I thought I was going to be like a painter, and so I was always involved in the art stuff, but I didn't necessarily become choir kid. Well, I don't think I really ever was choir kid because I did more theater than anything else starting in middle school. But through elementary school, I loved music. I remember my first audition for anything vocal was for, I think it was like the all county choir, all county and all state or something. Yeah, all state. And we had to sing "My Country 'Tis of Thee." Yep. And my voice cracked in the middle of the thing. My voice cracked so bad, and I think it was the first time my voice had ever cracked. Ever, because puberty was starting. Yeah, and, that's fine. But I got it. I got both of them.
There you go.
And it was me and a girl who I actually wound up going to college with, who we were in Allstate together. That was in elementary school. And then I distinctly remember in 4th or 5th grade, we had the music teacher on wheels, and she would bring her card in the room. And because they took her classroom away because we were running out of space.
Yes. Imagine the arts not having space. Anyways.
Right. We spent a whole class period listening to the Fisk Jubilee Singers. And I had never heard of them before. The Fisk Jubilee Singers are vocal artists and students at Fisk University in Nashville. So they sing and they travel worldwide. It's a brilliant group with incredible vocalists. But I remember just loving their sound and loving the a cappella sound.
My exposure to a cappella singing was barbershop. And it really, choral music to me, it clicks now, but at the time it was like, yeah, this is a cappella, but also there's a piano, oftentimes there's an orchestra, so it's not truly a cappella. For me, it was barbershop harmony is where I got the exposure of a cappella, and I can distinctly remember it was in middle school, and my middle school music teacher had a vocal majority, which for those of you who don't know, is a Texas-based barbershop harmony choir, and he had a vocal majority VHS. Let's show my age right now. And he let me borrow it, and I remember just wearing the tape out because I would watch it over and over and over thinking this music is really, really cool. And fast forward, what was it, even like 3 years after I found that VHS, my high school started a barbershop mini choir and or quartetting.
Oh, cool.
So I got to dip my toes into that again, and then found out that there was a Nashville-based chorus, and ended up going, auditioning, joining them, delve into the society, and left for many life reasons and things like that, which is fine. No bad blood necessarily. But ultimately what I am getting to with this story is the group that I joined, I think either last year, they actually won internationals. So had I stayed with them, I would have been on that journey. It's completely fine. I'm very happy for them. But it was just kind of cool to be like, oh, wow, they did win. Because when I was part of them, my first year that I competed with them, we got 7th in the world. And then right after I left, they got 5th. So to see them progress up to being one of the top ones is, that's really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. So in high school, I didn't do a lot of choir once I started doing theater in 7th grade. Yeah. I kind of I put my focus mainly in theater stuff. Yeah. And it wasn't until my senior year of high school that they offered an a cappella class. And I was like, oh, well, I'm definitely going to do this. And so it was essentially sort of like an AP situation where they picked certain students that would come in. It was really just all the people that took music really seriously, wanted to pursue it in college. So it was like me and I think 10 other people. It was like juniors and seniors only. And so it was just 10 people-ish that really cared about music. Yeah. And it was a really cool class. I loved it. And every Friday, our teacher would have us, one of the students had to create their own arrangement for an instrument, not instrumental. They had to create their own arrangement for a song, any song. And then they had to teach that arrangement to the class, and then we would perform it at the end of class. And then every week, it was a different student, and so everybody got at least 1 week to create an arrangement. Nice. And somebody asked, when it was their week, hey, can I do a barbershop thing kind of on the side with 4 guys? And we had 4 guys in the class. Or no, we had 3 actually, and so we had to get somebody from outside class. But anyway, but we learned our barbershop thing.
Don't mind us being nerds. It's fine.
No, I agree. I feel like a cappella is just, there's something about it that just makes, I don't know, it just feels so pure and vulnerable. It does. And it's mistakes are inescapable. You can't hide something when it's a cappella unless it's like 20,000 people. But like with small group a cappella, it's so raw and it's beautiful because it's so vulnerable.
Absolutely.
But with that class in particular, I really loved it because there was a sense of trust in us as students and as artists. We were learning, and every Friday, our teacher would literally leave the class. He would say, have fun, I'll be back to hear it at the end. And he would leave for 45 minutes. And I'm sure for him that was like, great, let me get some grading done. But for us, it was like, wow, he trusts us enough to have the musicality and musical ability to know what we're doing and to teach each other and to grow from that. And so I learned so much from that class because of the trust he gave us as students.
The better thing about that too is in having the space, that's fantastic. Good on you, teacher, for doing that. But also the people you were with were actively like, yes, this is good time to work. Because
Yeah.
in my situation, I would do after school jazz choirs and things like that. And a lot of the times, people that were in it, if the teacher wasn't there, nothing would happen because they weren't active in sense of like, we crave to work on this. It was like, oh, we have to because the teacher's here. So vast different worlds. But if you and I had been in those classes together, we might have our musical written by now. Who knows?
Yeah.
But on that note, Easton and I have actually been a part of 2 big name background vocal opportunities. Is it 2 or 3? Well,
2.
We've
did 2
performed
together.
3 times. We've just done 2.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I've done one separately that I'll talk about later. But yeah, it's kind of cool to not revert back to roots. I don't like that phrase necessarily, but to still pursue passion of choral singing in a different avenue. Because obviously with the 2 that we did, it was with big orchestras and things like that. But it was still the same vibe at the same time.
Yeah.
And even I like your phrase of the vulnerability with a cappella singing. Because if you mess up, there's no hiding in it. But it's still there even with a bigger production, even with an orchestra. It's like that option is still there to mess up. Like there's no going back.
Yeah. So I would love to dive into those stories.
Yes.
And then at the end, I want to circle back around to session singing because there's a
Sure.
few lessons that I learned that I'd love to share.
Yeah.
These okay, let's dive into the
Let's
meat.
get to the title,
So these
shall we?
stories will be indulgent as far as it is very much entertaining and it will be an
Yes.
entertainment segment. But
Yes.
also it's good because we'll share things that we learned about the industry.
Yes.
And
things that we would do different
Concert
if we were in the big name situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the first experience that we had was she was performing at, but we got an amazing opportunity again through our friend Christopher Bailey.
Well Wishes
and his
Productions.
Well Wishes Productions.
Yeah, they contract the choirs for.
They do.
He contracted for the concert that me and Austin did. He also contracted for the one which we did, which we'll talk about. But also they did a one, and you guys just did one with.
Anyways, to
Yes.
we had gotten the music. What would you say? 2 weeks before.
Yeah, it was about 2 weeks.
It was about 2 weeks before.
Well, I
but
think
the
we had
interesting
it.
thing was
They
kept
sent it out like a
changing
month before. Yeah, it was originally like a
Yeah.
month or something, but then they kept changing it
Yeah.
up until like a week before, or actually less than a week. I think there was a major
Which
change.
is very strange to you and I because we live in a world that of rehearsing is structured. Like,
Yeah.
you know, before you go into rehearsal, oh, you have these songs, go. So the fact that these kind of things can wait until the 2 weeks before and be like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
here's the finalized list. Have fun.
I think they were still finalizing the charts too. 'Cause
They were.
They hadn't started the tour. I think it was like the third stop or
I think it was
something like
the
that.
third or fourth stop, I believe.
Yeah. So they were
But even
finishing up
still.
the charts because they hadn't even started the tour yet, and then they
Exactly.
finally sent it to us. We're like, "Oh, great, we can."
Oh,
rehearse.
great! 2 weeks. Here we go.
Yeah.
We as a Well Wishes ensemble, we had one rehearsal, and then we were there the day of, and we got called in that morning to rehearse with the conductor, who was great. I don't recall their name, but anyways,
I don't either.
they were great, and the whole process was. I don't know about you, Easton, but the whole process was a little bit more relaxed than I expected.
Yeah.
As far as rehearsing the music, like it was still
Yes.
very professional, very.
Yeah, we COVID tested when we went in because this
Yes.
is still the height of everything.
But I'm sitting there in
yeah.
the chair, like very, very straight, like, "Ooh, this is." And the conductor, like, casually walks in, is like, "You guys,"
Yeah.
I believe they were British, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
And it was just so chill, and we're like,
Yeah.
you're not matching the vibe that I expected."
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
kind of
Well, I
thing.
mean, because everything with that contract was so hyper specific, and the instructions were go to this door, and we were told like if you go to the wrong door, you can get fired.
Yeah.
No wandering of any kind is allowed. Going outside of our dressing room, we would get fired, like on the spot. Like it
On the
was
spot.
very, very particular.
Yeah.
In lots of different ways, and one of them was like you will show up at this time at this door, and you will walk in this direction. And then the rehearsal room was just so relaxed, and he was chill, and he was like, "Wow, you guys are great." And it's because we had a private rehearsal on our own
Yes.
a couple days before.
A couple days,
But then,
yeah.
do you remember what happened with the orchestra?
Remind me, because it's been a hot
So
minute.
we were in we were rehearsing. The choir was in one of like a hotel ballroom.
It was like a
thing.
ballroom, yeah.
And it had a dividing wall.
Oh yes, and
the orchestra was having their rehearsal next door that started 30 minutes after us. Well, ours was supposed to be an hour or an hour and a half or something like that. And the orchestra had started their rehearsal. And they were, it's an orchestra. With a dividing wall, a collapsible dividing wall in a hotel ballroom. So, like, there's no escaping a giant orchestra. No. And the conductor was just like, well, I really don't see a point in continuing. You all sound great. I'll stop by to check on some things, but I think we can just be done. We're like, okay.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Yeah.
I remember
our
that
rehearsal got cut short.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Like, so much happened in the day, good and bad, but so much happened in the day that I didn't even remember that. That's insane. I remember that too, because he was just kind of like, I'm annoyed, you guys get to go.
Yeah like, but the material, it was like 15 to 20 songs or something, and there were 4 languages total. 4 or 5.
I think 4 or 5.
It was a lot.
And that's kind of been the broad spectrum of every experience we've had, both with and that I just did. It's just here's a couple languages, have fun. It's like, okay.
Yeah. And with the great thing was we were able to we were on stage the whole time standing. Yes. There were no chairs. Yes. Even when we weren't singing, we were standing.
And we had choreography. That was fun.
Show. Yeah, we did have a little step touch stuff going on. But they had stands in front of us, so we had sheet music. We did not have to be memorized, unlike other gigs. But anyways. So that part was nice. Okay.
So we were on stage we had mic check, or orchestra check, whatever you want to call it. And we were on stage, and suddenly is coming. And we know the is coming because the stagehand tells us, and we're like, oh, she's coming, here she comes. And she comes out on stage. But what I found super interesting was they had 2 people at all times during the rehearsal flashlight checking the entire seat orchestra section. Gosh, they'd be like, no one's recording, no one is allowed to do this.
Oh, and they had that super strict policy of no phones on stage.
No phones on stage.
We as choir, even in soundcheck, could not have our phones in our pockets because did not want to be photographed.
And it's like, okay, great. They fed us dinner, which is very generous. They don't have to do that, but they gave us cheese and pepperoni pizza for a singing gig. And there's a whole thing on cheese and vocal health that we can go into at a different time. Yeah. But if you're a singer, you know what we're saying on that. Anyways, let's talk about again through Well Wishes Productions. Was an amazing opportunity. We actually got to sing twice for in 2 different venues.
One not
one
far.
Was Alabama, yes, and the second was in Tennessee, at a lovely venue that I had no idea was even a thing.
And his whole tour was outdoors, which I loved. Because also, I mean, COVID exit and all that stuff. Because this was 2022, summer 2022. And so he had all of his concerts outdoors. And
it's a smarter way to do it, especially really cool in this time. And really cool venues to find that way.
Did we have in-ears for those?
I don't think we did. We had monitors,
Honestly, I hardly remember one of them.
I know it. And we'll get into that, shall we?
We'll get into that. So the first thing, it was, again, we had to do all the COVID testing, but I remember it was even stricter than that. There was like the side door we had to go into. We had to park kind of far away, and we found our way through the side door, and instantly there was this man. I don't think he was with the venue, and he just immediately was just like, everybody stand here, don't touch anything. You want to go to the bathroom? No, you have to wait 15 minutes till your test is done. And it was just like so forceful for no reason. Like nobody was being aggressive. We were all like, it was a very kind group of people. And,
exactly.
But it was just like from the beginning, it was so harsh and cold, and we're like, oh my god.
And like, I can understand potentially somebody being that way in the beginning to like, not assert dominance, but like be like, okay, this is, I need your attention, we'll relax later. No, this individual was that way, like 0 to 100 the entire time.
And it wasn't even like, I'm just being blunt. This was just like harsh and kind of rude for no reason.
For no reason at all. But the testing was there. Both testing experiences weren't terrible. In fact, they were really, really well thought out and precautionary, as we had to be, and still
once we got
negatives,
we got our little stickers that were
stickers,
like,
and we were fine.
We belong here.
But I remember that we had to wait in groups too, because even if you got a negative result, you had to wait until like 10 people could go back at once. They weren't just individually sending you.
Well, it was because Mr. Guy, whatever his name was like, I'm not walking people back and forth a lot. You're going to have to wait. I'm only making a couple trips. And so he had to personally walk us to the spot, which I get. It's a giant thing, and also I don't want people just wandering around.
Yeah.
But he also, was just so forceful.
So forceful. And it was like where we had to go that he had to walk us was like around a corner, down a little bit, and another corner. Like you could have easily had 2 people or some signs, and you wouldn't have had to escort us.
Been perfect.
Yeah, it'd be fine. We're adults. Like we're not going to be like, ooh.
Yeah.
And I think was even upstairs. So like just keep people from knowing a path, and they won't go down it. Like it'd be fine.
That's fair.
But anyways, we got into the rehearsal room once everybody got there. And a similar experience to the conductor came. Yeah. It was a very relaxed environment. He was great.
Oh, that was an awesome experience. He had been working with for like his entire career,
entire career, pretty much,
and he was incredible and was just all about how music is storytelling, and this is not about being perfect. This is about getting an emotional reaction from our audiences, and so like guiding us through that and their approach to it. And then he was like, I've worked in the industry a long time. I know some of you have been doing the same, and I know some of you are brand new. Let me answer some questions. And so he spent like an extra 20 minutes with us just talking about the industry and answering questions, which was so cool and nice.
We got that talk back. I attain we got that talk back, 1, because he was a genuinely kind human, and 2, because we were prepared. In anything, come prepared as much as you can. Like, I understand situations happen and sometimes you're not able to prepare, but if you go in ready, you might get more opportunity. But anyways, the talkback was wonderful to hear, and especially from somebody who's been in any kind of industry for a long time. If they answer a question and it could be an answer that you expect, half the time it's not. Like, they give you insight to where you're like, I never thought of it that way. But he was also like, you guys are one of the better sounding groups that we've had, so I'm really excited about this concert. I don't even recall the second time when we had a rehearsal. We had the mic check.
No, we didn't have a rehearsal because it was. It was the next night. We went to did it, came home, and then did the next concert the next day. And
then we had to wait.
Oh. It was like, what, 7 hours, 8 hours?
I think it was like 7 hours, and we were in one room, and the first time in was fine. The room was big enough. The second time in
it was something else.
We were in an underground room that didn't have any kind of AC
no windows,
unit, anything like that. It was very, like, just downing.
You know the scene in Spider-Man, the first Tom Holland one, where he accidentally gets locked inside that facility?
Yes. It felt very much like that. Yeah. Because it was like, I can't do anything, so here we are.
Yeah. Or everything is concrete, and we had like one door, and that door led you to a really long hallway, which eventually got outside. But so there was like no sunlight coming from anywhere.
Nowhere.
It was awful.
I
remember we had really good
windows,
coffee on the table.
Yeah, we did.
And do you remember that's actually where we first talked about this podcast?
Yep, that's where this podcast was born.
Yeah, because we were... what was it? I remember where the conversation was, but
everybody was talking about, like, podcasts that they were listening to, and Easton and I both were, like, talking about what we would want from a podcast, and we're like, wait, this is actually a really good idea.
And everyone else was like, oh my gosh, do this. I'd listen to it.
I was like, okay. And we... that was 2 years ago, and here we are now. Woo, it's alive, it's breathing. But it's crazy to think that it has been 2 years since the birth of the idea was there.
Yeah, because we were like having a coffee, and we're like, and it was your idea, like, oh, but what if we talk about this stuff, but then have a cup of coffee every episode? And I was like, that's so cool. And then we got busy, and then moving and graduating and all the things, and
growing up and all these things. So
but here we are.
Yes, and it's alive. But no, I remember it being born in that time because it was just 7 hours, and we couldn't leave the room. Like, I can understand if we had like outside access. We didn't. The one in had windows at least, so we had some sunlight.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. It was gorgeous.
Really I loved that venue, and I loved the venue in for what it was. Yeah, but it was just okay. Yeah, and then so we're waiting. Suddenly, Mr. Man comes into the door orchestra had left and they were rehearsing on stage, and we were dressed and ready. Oh, this was before the show. This wasn't
this was before the show. We had done sound check. This was in the middle of our hours-long wait.
Yeah. And we're sitting there dressed and ready. I remember that. And he's like, all right, I need all you guys out in the hallway. We need to do it now. And we're like, okay, what
are we doing? Because
we looked at the watch. We're like, it's not time to go out. Well, okay. So we go out in the hallway and we're standing there. I think everybody had an idea of what was about to happen because we were judged into this corner of a hallway and told, wait.
Yeah. But then he kept yelling at us, hurry, get out of here. Come on.
Exactly.
We were going at a perfectly normal speed.
Yeah,
we were
it was literally like
outside
right outside. Yeah.
Yeah. He just kept going. Go, quickly. Come on. Okay. Now
I'm trying to do something nice for you.
Gather on this side. Go over here. Come on. Can't you go faster? I'm trying to do something nice for you.
I know. It's like,
and we're like, what is going
Mr. Man,
on?
please stop.
Oh my God.
We're right here. We're humans. Yeah. And then a very nice gesture came out and he took a photo with us. Well, he was very nice. Took a photo. And then
which is really kind. He did not.
It was very kind of him. Not all artists would do that. And it's just very, very nice. But the lead up to it, everything we had dealt with, it was like, oh, wait, you're the relaxed one? I don't understand.
Yeah.
So we took the photo. We get zhuzhed back into the room by Mr. Man. And we wait. And then we finally go on stage.
Wait.
Singing.
Then we were served pizza.
Ah, yes, we were served pizza. I forgot about the whole thing.
Finish your... Yes.
And we went on stage. No, it's okay. We went on stage singing Glorious Experience. Really cool experience to have. The orchestra size that it was, and the music that he had chosen was a good set. It was really enjoyable. Excuse me. Not only for fans of, but just musical theater fans or just music fans in general. Because the other thing that I forgot until talking about it was he had this like jazz funk or New Orleans sound band as his opener. And I can just remember hearing the I'm like, what's happening on stage right now? This is not this is very different from the bells.
Remember the real organ, the huge organ that the
for
box
one of the numbers
was right next to our room, and so we could see the box and hear it whirring.
And we're like, what? Are we the washer?
On?
What's going on?
Yeah. And we're like, oh my gosh, that's the organ right there.
Yeah, it's right there. We can touch it. So, but anyways, we were served dinner.
It was lovely pizza. It was fine. It was great. Granted, we were in this room 7 hours, and so we packed some snacks and things, but like that was the only real sustenance that any of us had access to. So I had like 4 slices, which is about normal. Normally I'll have like 3, maybe 4 if I'm hungry. So I had like 4 slices, and they were average size. And as the hours ticked by following this pizza, I just started feeling worse and worse. And I was like, something's just not good. And I had my little whoosh fan, and so I was fanning myself, and I was like, this just is not good. Maybe I'll take a nap, because usually when I have a stomachache, I'll take a nap and I'll wake up and it'll be fine. So we had a nice big couch in there, and so I laid down on the couch. And as the hours went on, it was just slowly getting worse and worse. And I was trying to push past and be like, it's going to be fine. I was super hydrated. I had like 2 cups of coffee, but like I knew that wasn't it. No. Something was just off. And the closer we got, the more I felt the feeling of I'm going to throw up soon. And so it was like probably 30 minutes before our first song. And so I go to the bathroom and I went over to the toilet and I was like, if it's going to happen, please let it happen now. Nothing occurred. And I was like, great. All right, we're going to do this concert and I'm going to feel like horrible doing it and it's going to be great. And so then we get Paige to go to... smile through the pain. Vocalize through the pain. And we get Paige to go to the other side of the stage where our half of the group was entering. And
I was on the other side, so again, we had no idea.
So everyone, I was stage left, and they were stage right, and our dressing room was stage right. And so we go over to stage left, and it's like, we're waiting there. They paged us like a full song early, so we had like a full song to sit through. And like verse chorus of that song goes by, and I am not good. Like I'm starting to get cold, and I'm like, no. No, not now.
Not now.
and then another verse goes by, another chorus goes by.
You're like,
now at the final chorus, and I get the wave. The wave of
the dreaded
pull
wave
over
of,
the car.
You gotta go now.
Well, like it's happening. And so Emma, a good friend of mine, Emma, she looks at me and she's like, "Are you okay? You're really pale." And I just like walk past her, and I'm scanning. I had been scanning the room for a bathroom in case this needed to happen, and I knew where it was, and it was not close. But I beelined for the bathroom, and I turned around before I went to the bathroom. People were walking on the stage. No. And I was like, no! So I go to the bathroom. I barely make it in time.
Yeah.
And the pizza is no longer in my stomach.
No.
The pizza is everywhere but my stomach.
Yes.
And so I spend my time cleaning myself up and washing my hands and just like washing my mouth out, all that stuff. As I am hearing the music of and all of my friends singing the song that I had spent so long preparing for, and I'm listening to that in the bathroom, and I'm like, this is a horrible situation,
right? It's like, whatever.
And so then I'm done in the bathroom. I wrap up, and I'm like, I'm just walk of shame. So I walk past all of the crew. They have the strike crew just sitting there because concert life is crazy, and they just wait. As soon as the concert's over, they start striking, get ready for the next city, and so there's like 20 people with hard hats just like staring at me as I'm in my concert blacks walking back. It's just like everyone knows what just happened. And then I just sit in the dressing room.
But they know.
Yes. And everybody walks in, and I have just missed one of 3 songs that I will have the opportunity to be on stage for. And I just feel awful. Yeah. But I feel better physically.
Yeah, because it's done.
Yeah, because it's done. It happened, whatever. And then, so we do the other 2 songs. I know it's tough for through, but it's just like that slight relief. Yeah. And so I was okay for the rest of the show. I was fine, but I was like, I don't know what happened. It must have been that pizza.
It must have.
So it made me throw up everybody. And honestly, if that wasn't the worst part, so we leave, and then everybody, of course, is always like, "Are you okay? What happened?" And I was like, "This is the last thing I want to talk about."
When I learned that what had happened, I was like, he needs to be left alone. Like,
and I remember you being like, "So sorry. Let me know if I can do anything." And then you left, and I was like, "Thank God."
I see Easton. He does not need this crowd of going, "Are you okay? What's
literally, it was a crowd of people, and I literally said, "I just don't want to talk about it."
Yeah,
and they're like, "Okay,
okay."
And oh my gosh! But then, so we do the 2 other songs. Whatever. We're getting ready to go home. It's like a 3-hour drive, 4-hour drive, I think. Maybe.
I remember that. Yeah,
maybe 3, something like that.
Yeah.
And I was riding with a lot
of carpooling.
Yeah, a lot of carpooling. I was riding with a man I had not met other than doing the gig together, so we kind of knew of each other.
Yeah.
A person I did a show with years ago that I have a lot of respect for, haven't seen her in years, and another performer who I had a lot of respect for and was about to do a contract with.
Yeah.
And it was the 4 of us in the car, and on the way home, they kept asking me how I was and like let us know if we need to do anything or stop and get you Sprite. And I felt the cold. The cold was returning, and I was like, "Oh no,
the cold bothered you anyway."
It's been like 3 hours at this point since the first occasion. I was like, "No, I thought we were done.
I was ready."
And I was like, "I think I need to get in the front seat." And they're like, "Absolutely." So then I get in the front seat, and then like 10 more minutes of feeling the cold, and then the wave, and I'm like, "Crap." We need to pull over. Yeah. So we pull over on the interstate.
It's like midnight at this point.
2 people I hardly know, and 1 person I hadn't seen in years. And more pizza in places it shouldn't be. And then we get back on the road.
Yeah.
And I'm like feeling a little better. And then I started feeling cold again, and they're like, "Well, we need to get gas anyway. Let's get you like a drink and some crackers or whatever." So then I go in, and I'm like, "Crap, I don't have my wallet." So then I wait by the van to get my wallet while they're all in the bathroom, and then they come back out like, "Did you get stuff?" I'm like, "No, I didn't have my wallet. Can you unlock the car?" And like, "I'm so sorry."
Feel like in those moments we feel like toddlers again. We're like, "I'm just helpless. I'm so sorry."
It was so humiliating, and I just felt so vulnerable. Throwing up already is vulnerable.
Is vulnerable in itself.
2 people you don't really know at all, and then 1 person you haven't seen in years, and all of whom you have respect for. Yep. It was just it was awful.
Bad. Yeah.
And then for I think it was a second time on the road, got the wave, pulled over, threw up again, and I think there may have been a 3rd time on the road too.
Oh my gosh!
But Yeah, no, it was a third because then we pulled over a final time. We're like 45 minutes out, and it was just, I mean, graphic warning, but it was
More
just
pizza.
dry heaving. It wasn't even pizza.
Oh,
it was
pizza's
just
gone.
great.
Yeah.
It was just dry heaving. Everything was gone.
Those are the
and
worst too.
It was awful.
Yeah.
And they had paper towels and baby wipes and were trying to like love on me, but also we don't know each other, and so it was just this odd dynamic.
What do you need? Yeah.
Exactly. It was so rough.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, I have to sing with these people again tomorrow and face this very vulnerable situation.
Next morning, it's like, hey, how you doing?
Exactly.
I feel fine.
and so that was my experience. I threw up, I think, four times because of pizza that he served me.
Gosh.
I don't know if it was like food poisoning, but you also didn't feel well, right?
I didn't feel well going home. I felt fine during the concert. Of course, my fiance can attest. I have like an iron stomach for whatever reason. Sometimes I can eat stuff and feel fine, and then hours later it's like, oh, by the way, I don't feel good. But I ended up later on that evening, the middle of the night, wake up, hey, go do this, and then you can go back to sleep. So I get up, I throw up very little pizza because I think most of it had digested at that point. So I throw up, feel fine, go back to bed, wake up. I'm okay. I have the like after effect where your body's just like, hey, we just expelled and are tired. By the way,
we just expelled.
Yes. And then we found out that someone else had got sick.
Yeah.
From the pizza.
That's right.
So 3 of us had been affected somehow, and everyone was kind of like, yeah, the pizza wasn't great.
Out of like the 20 or 25 people.
Yeah, like
weird.
4, like enough that it was like, this is not coincidence, or this is not like, it's not coincidence.
It's not a stomach bug.
No,
we weren't around each other to lead you to the point. It was something with something else. We all consumed.
So, fine, we're all better. I remember everyone being worried about eating during the day, and he's like, do you need anything?
I walked in and it was like 10 people just like giving me the pity look, like, how
buddy.
are you doing?
Yeah,
it was all,
like,
all day. Every time I saw somebody new, they were like, how are you feeling? I'm like, stop! I don't want to talk about it.
So we were like, okay, we have another gig. We mic checked. We were like, fine. They were like, okay, we're going to bring you dinner. We're like, oh, I hope it's not pizza. It was.
It was pizza.
It wasn't the same pizza, but it was pizza again. And I remember almost nobody touching it, especially like anybody who had got sick. We were like, not doing that.
I remember David did.
Yeah, David did.
Devoured more pizza.
Oh my gosh. But I and my fiance, who also joined us at the gig for both of them, we brought dinner because we were like, we're not doing that. I'm not doing that again. And so we were happy we did.
I brought like super light foods. I had some like slices of bread, some yogurt, because my stomach was still like, it was sore. It was so sore the next day.
And I remember getting you a couple of things to be like, just in case there isn't anything, I'm gonna get Easton something.
I remember that. That was sweet.
It was just so funny to be like, again, pizza, again.
1, you're doing it, period.
Yeah.
Serving pizza to a choir, like, okay.
About to sing?
2,
great.
You do it 2 times in a row with the same group of people. Like,
and
really?
a lot, like, as ridiculous as this sounds, it's true, first of all. And second, the other thing that we attained was like, it wasn't like was like, yes, feed them pizza. It was the company obviously chose it.
It was not making the decision to make
them
pizza.
suffer.
Yeah.
So that was a big old experience. So,
yeah.
I remember we were given tea, hot water, and coffee, like, available to us. It was literally down the hallway was the only section where there was hot water.
It was a whole cafeteria.
It was a whole cafeteria. Like, we would have been better. But the other thing was they had given us tea and like stuff to make it, but no water, no cups. Like, it was in the room, and when somebody asked about it, and they were like, no, we provided you what you needed. No, you did not.
You had tea bags.
Yes, that's
and
it.
Plastic water cups.
Yes, that's burning our fingers if we use hot water.
What?
I don't know.
But we didn't have a place to get hot water, because they said, we were like, can we go to the cafeteria? They're like, no, that's not for you. You can't leave this room. And we're like,
they told us
okay.
that, and then a couple people didn't know, accidentally went down the hallway. My fiance was one of them, and they got hot water and some honey because it was there, and we were like, oh, okay, great, we have access to this. And I remember a lady that was part of the production company, or she was either part of the production company or the venue, because the venue, they were two separate things. The venue had volunteers who were in charge of like crowd control and things like that. But I remember she had these big old glasses that were sparkly all the way around, and she just started barking at people like, no, you can't leave this room, get back in there. And I was like, are we cattle? What's happening?
We're in a room with no sunlight.
Yes,
and tea bags with no hot water.
At least give us vitamin D supplements. Come on now.
For real.
Use somebody else.
And we talk about all of the negative things because it's fun to tell those stories, but also like, it was just glorious. These experiences were crazy. Like getting to sing on stage with these, it was full orchestras, like full 60. How many in an orchestra? 66 pieces? Is that a full?
It varies. Okay. So you can have a concert orchestra, I think, can be from 12 to 84 to be considered an orchestra. I know was, I think, somewhere in like the 16, 18, because there was only, I remember there being 4 rows, and then the drum kits, and percussion, which took up a majority of it. And then the conductor, he played guitar and bass, I think. I know it was a lot of string instruments. But the back rows was like 3 or 4. But it was just surreal to be able to have that kind of experience, and to sort of wrap up, I'll talk about, as Easton says, as negative as we seem about these stories, we'll have them forever. I would do it again. I would eat that bad pizza. I would throw up 4 times in a night again. I will deal with all the Mr. Mans as long as I get to do those kind of things. Yeah. Is it right? No. But I will deal with it. And to attest, it just goes to show, I think it has to do with the person, but also just potentially the company. Because with we were at Arena, it was just recently, and same situation. Well Wishes production hired singers. There were 60 of us singing. There was an 84-piece orchestra. Wow. World famous maestro. A just really, really cool experience. And I just remember the only thing I was focused on was they were going to feed us dinner. And I had it in my mind the whole time. I was like, it's going to be pizza. I know it's going to be pizza. They're just going to serve us pizza. I've been scarred too many times. The 3 times I've done this, I've had pizza. And we go into the space where they're serving dinner, and it wasn't. It was like honey barbecue chicken with a little bit of spice and like Brussels sprouts and all this other stuff. Oh my gosh. And I'm like, night and day. Night and day. Class act, that. All right, it's like
the others are too, but his management is also a class act.
exactly. And I've dealt with his security was very similar to. There's no photos, like you couldn't even go down the hallway, but we were given plenty of space, like for 60 people and the orchestra. We were in a room that could have held like probably close to 600 people, and it was barely 150. So
did you get vitamin D?
No, we did not.
No windows at all?
No windows at all.
That sucks.
But also, I think that has to do with the venue. Like, where we were was, we entered road level and then went down. So, we were underground, basically. Yeah. But it was a big enough room. There was enough space, enough air. But it's just not an open space anyways. The only outside access is for, like, audience members and whatnot. Which it was interesting being there and having been to hockey games and other concerts of that type, but being on stage was very, very cool. But yeah, it's just been really, really cool. We're not done in the sense of experiences in life, but to take time to talk about them is just really surreal. Yeah. So we're eternally grateful to the opportunities that have been bestowed to us, be it choral, be it through teachers, through Well Wishes production, our friends Christopher and Sarah. And there's more to come. And that's something I'm learning in life is you're not done. There's no rush. Why would we rush life?
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I was going to say, why would we rush life when it's the longest thing we experience? Like, I love that. And I recently learned that. So every day I'm like, okay, what's today? Let's go. Yeah. What were you going to say?
Yeah. I was going to say, I have a little caveat in session singing that I wanted to touch.
Oh,
and
yes,
I know
please.
we're like way over time.
No,
but
no.
I can
Yeah.
cut way
Edit.
back.
Cut it. It's fine.
But I wanted to ask before we left, what is like the biggest lesson that you've learned from all of our concert experiences?
Have professional patience and trust that whatever you are bringing is enough, because they know you're there for a reason. Like, they wouldn't have hired you if they wouldn't have hired you otherwise. Have professionalism, patience, and pay attention, because you're going to learn a lot within those miniature 24 hours, really, in the sense of how to treat people, how you might get treated, and just to prepare yourself for this kind of industry monster. Because like you said, we were very taken aback by many different things, or we went in with expectations and they were sort of broken down.
Yeah.
Which is comforting, because you're like, okay, I can kind of relax a little bit.
Yeah.
But then you still have to stay on guard. So I would say just be prepared to be patient.
Yeah.
And also be a professional. So
Yeah. Yeah.
So what about you?
I think I would also say preparation is the key, but not necessarily in the same way. Like with the material itself, like coming in fully prepared is so important, because when it sets you up so much better for success.
Yeah, very much.
Because it's similar to like learning your lines before day one of rehearsal. Like if you if you're pretty much off book when it comes time to block, you can actually perform. You can actually play and actually experiment. And same with this sort of situation. Like if we come in knowing our music incredibly well, are incredibly prepared, then maybe the conductor will cut the rehearsal short and just talk and hang out.
Exactly. Yeah.
And maybe they'll trust you a little bit more and extend a little more leniency and artistic flexibility. Yeah. But being prepared, I think, is just huge. That's one thing that I learned. Preparation goes a long way. Or not necessarily learned. I think I knew that from theater, but like seeing it apply in different scenarios was kind of reinforced that idea for me.
I really agree.
But at the end of the day, like it's just about making music and making art, and so nothing is so serious that you have to be miserable about it. Yes, it's a serious business, and yes, professionalism is expected and important. But at the end of the day, it is about the art and having fun with it and enjoying yourself. So don't get so worried about being prepared and being extra patient and extra professional and extra prepared and all the things that it becomes a chore. If it becomes a chore,
it's not work.
Look at something else.
It's not enjoyable.
Or you might be going overboard.
It's true.
Yeah,
'tis true. So.
The other thing with session singing that I just wanted to touch on.
Because that's a whole different monster.
Yeah, it's a whole different monster that I learned so much about. But it sort of falls into the choir world. Yeah. And I learned a lot of lessons. I'll kind of like go through a bullet point list of them.
Yes.
But to provide some background, when I was 16 or maybe 17, I think I was 16 when I started, they had auditions for reference recordings. And so, like if Joe Schmo, who runs the theater program in Minneapolis, Minnesota, decided to do a chorus line student edition at their high school, or Mary Poppins Jr. or whatever. Yes. They would send them the scripts, they would send them the vocal scores, the librettos and everything, and reference tracks. Yep. Because for specifically for those junior shows and student edition shows, they really use those reference tracks to help teach the music, to help kids listen to their parts and like learn all that stuff. But yeah, so I started when I was like 16 or 17. My first one was Chorus Line Student Edition, and I was Mike. And so I did I can do that, I can do that. That was my first thing, and it was super exciting and so cool, and I was so scared. And then I think I did it for, depending on whether I was 16 or 17, I did it up until I moved. So it was about 6 or 7 years I did these recordings, and most of them were for MTI, some were for Tams Whitmark, which is now Concord. Some were I did some like educational stuff for Hal Leonard, and then I did one for CMT's Nashville, which was so cool and was amazing, and I'm still getting like 5-cent residual letters in the mail.
5 cents.
Right? But anyway, so It was an incredible learning environment, and I learned so much. They are run by the most brilliant people who work with the most brilliant people.
Yeah.
And we had guest conductors come in. We had Aaron Accurso for Aladdin Jr., and he was the Broadway conductor for Aladdin.
Yep.
We had James Lowe come in for the Les Mis Student Edition recordings, and
that's cool.
he was conducting it on Broadway. And we had all these brilliant people. They brought Stephen Schwartz in for Children of Eden Jr., and they told me and one other girl who had our solos one day, they're like, hey, he's staying from this day to this day, so he'll probably be in the studio when you guys come, just to warn you so you don't freak out. And we're like, okay, vibrating as 19-year-olds. Oh my gosh, Stephen Schwartz. And we showed up, we recorded our solos, and then at the end of the day, we were like, so is Steven here?
Is here?
And they were like, oh no, he flew out last night. We're like, no! So we literally missed him by a day. I was like, are you kidding me?
I just love that it's like, is Steven here?
Is Steven here?
Is Steven?
Hello? Anyway, but some bullet point things that I learned from all of that. One was looking at the conductor. Like if you're in any sort of choral setting, or if you're in a sitz probe or whatever, look at the conductor.
Please.
Because there were so many times where we had tricky rhythms or some weird it was like a retard into coming out of vamps, whatever. And there were so many scenarios where as kids we didn't really know what to do, and so we were kind of guessing, and they didn't allow us access to click on our boxes because it can kind of robotize things. So we didn't have click, and all we needed to do was just look at the conductor. And so often Mr. Producer would go into our ears and say, I wonder maybe I could hire somebody to stand in the room with you and wave their arms around and look directly at you and give you a cue. Maybe do you think that would be helpful? Oh wait. I think that's what that person's there for.
Oh my gosh.
Why don't you give that a try? And at first I was like, oh my god. I felt horrible about myself. And my first couple of years I learned that lesson, and then the last 5 or so years that I did it, I would see the younger kids come in and have to learn that same lesson. And it was just funny.
We lambs, I'm sorry.
And it was he did that joke, that bit the same way every time. He was like, I wonder if I could put somebody in there to help you with this situation.
That's very Mr. Ray as well. I wonder where my class has gone.
Yes, exactly. So I learned a lot about referencing the conductor and they're a reference. Use them for help. It's kind of why they're there.
Maybe.
And who cares about mistakes was another big thing. Especially in the studio, they said the worst thing that can happen is that we do it again.
Yep.
Which also goes into being strong and wrong. When you're learning material, especially when you're learning material, but just in general, be super strong in your choices, in your volume.
Amen.
Don't back off, because if you're wrong, then we can realize, hey, something's off, let's fix it. And then you get the help that you need to fix it, and it's great. Always be strong and wrong. Be proud of mistakes, because that means something gets to be worked on and then become even better.
For the audience members, I did not burp. That was in my throat.
And then another thing was smiling in the studio, because we were directed so often, hey, this is going to be used for students that are learning this show on the stage. Yes, we are in the studio right now, but you need to be on a giant stage. Everything has to be bigger. It cannot feel like we're in a studio. Yeah. And so over time, if we weren't giving them what they need, they're like, hey, by the way, smile. Yeah. And so then all of us would smile as we sang, because most of the stuff was very, very bright. Yes. Because it's junior shows, and so it was here. Oh, yeah. And as soon as we all smiled, the sound just totally shifted. So smiling when you sing just makes a huge difference. And also, if you're going a little flat, it helps. Yes. So that would always be helpful. It's like, hey, everybody, don't forget to smile. Because the producer would stop and be like, hey, I don't think we're there. I think things are a little off. We're getting a little pitchy. And the vocal contractor who was in the room with us on the stand singing with us would just look around and say, hey, everybody, make sure you're smiling. We're good. Go again. And so we'd do it again, and it was great. Because we just weren't smiling.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, being in a studio, you forget you should be on stage, in mindset. So I could see how that would happen, where it's like, oh, right, I need to smile.
Yes.
Because I've done very little studio things compared to your experience. But it can be like, oh, okay, I'm in this room. a little draining. So that makes perfect sense.
It's like subconscious too. You don't even think about it. It's like you're
Exactly.
playing to the room. If you're in a small room, you're going to play to that intimate room. But we
Indeed.
couldn't. We had to play to a giant arena.
Exactly.
Bridgestone.
Go. Anyways, go on.
And then two other things. One was when Aaron Accurso came to teach Aladdin Jr. to us. There, in Friend Like Me, the Broadway version, they have all those wah wah wah. It's all vocal. It's not all vocal. I'm sure they have some brass in there, but
more than likely,
they have a whole section that is just swung trumpet sounds that are all the actors. The wah wah wah, wah wah wah, and we spent probably over the course of the week and a half of rehearsals and recording the show, we probably spent an accumulative 2 hours on how to make correct trumpet sounds.
Oh my gosh.
He drilled it.
Yeah.
In rehearsals, we spent about 45 minutes on it, and then following like recording days, we would spend like 15-minute pocket here, 30-minute here, and day of, we had to sound just like trumpets in the placement and our vowel sounds and all the stuff. It was so particular. And so I learned a lot about how to take
Please tell me that's on your
resume.
Like, can imitate trumpet perfectly.
Hopefully, at that
Trumpet
point, after
wah-wah.
spending 2 hours straight on it, but learning how to like take notes and give the conductor what they're asking for, or the music director, whatever. And the last thing is, this is my other clickbait statement. The Bernstein estate hates my vibrato. Is the way I like to start the story. So we were doing West Side Story Student Edition, and this was after I had done it for a few years. So I was more relatively confident in my skill in the studio, and I was super lucky and was recording for Tony in West Side Student Edition, and so we obviously there's a lot to sing for that show. And we record the whole thing, and maybe. So we record all of Tony's material. They send it off, and usually what happens is we record it. You never hear anything, and then one day I'll check the MTI.com site and look it up, and wow, that's my voice in there that I can click and play. And that's all that happens. But like 2 or 3 months after we record, I think it was about that long, 2 or 3 months, I get an email from the vocal contractor saying, "Hey, so we sent it to the Bernstein estate, Leonard's family that's remaining, and they have to give a check mark on all of the works or reproductions of his work as his family."
Yeah.
And they said that your vibrato was not necessarily to their liking, and that it was too fast, or not too fast. They said it's just too large for someone of high school age, and we need to re-record everything. And I was like, oh my gosh. I think I was 20 at the time. So like, and my vibrato is not necessarily laborious. I think it can be if it's like children, obviously. But this was a student edition. There's junior, or there's kids version, there's junior version, there's student edition. With student edition, you can expect more adult sound. It's like high school to maybe college age. Yeah. And the girl who was playing Maria, she had the most operatic soprano vibrato in the world.
And they were fine with that.
I was like, what about her? What about
she
her?
did it
she
first.
didn't have to re-record. So I think they just didn't like my sound or my vibrato.
Oh my gosh.
So I responded. I was like, hey, I'm happy to do that. And I was like, well, I'm getting a lot more money this way. I'm getting double the pay for the same project. Yeah. And I said, but I am sick at the moment. I have phlegm. I've got like some sort of bug or cold. And this is pre-COVID. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know exactly. I imagine I could do it at some point, just not this week. It would need to be next week. And she was like, well, we're already behind because they're having us re-record, so it needs to be this week. Can you do this day? And I was like,
I guess.
Okay. So I go into the studio to re-record Tony's stuff from West Side Story, which is not easy. No. And some of it is relatively easy, but not all of it is easy.
Not all.
Like, there's the Maria section, which is completely in the most gentle pianissimo head voice sound
How about
in
I
the
just
world,
don't sing pianissimo?
trying to fight this gunk.
Yeah.
And we spent so long on the end section of Maria because it was just gunky. And I was like, I'm trying to tell you.
Hello.
And I think eventually I don't think there was a single take that was gunkless. So I think what they did is they just scarecrow,
Meshed
not scarecrow.
too.
They Frankenstein all of different takes and somehow edited it really well to where you couldn't tell it was different ones.
Fix it in post.
One held out. It was the Maria.
Yeah.
Is held for so long as the violin goes da 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 da. It's
Yes.
But it sounds great now.
Yeah.
But it's because they edited it so smoothly. But I had to re-record everything, and they were like, straight tone everything. You can have a little shimmer, though, sometimes. And so I put a little shimmer at the end of most phrases because that's natural. Wound up being straight toning everything. Everything was straight tone, except for, I think, the big musical numbers where other people were there, and then they said I could add a little bit of a shimmer.
Maybe tonight. Like, oh, gosh.
It was rough.
Right. Yeah.
It was rough. And I was sick!
I know, like, come on now.
Yeah, that's my little tidbit about West Side. And the Bernstein estate hates my vibrato. But anyway.
That's funny.
Sorry, that put us even further over. But
that's fine.
There it is.
I think they'll be all right. So let's talk about the coffee.
Yes. The coffee.
So you were the one that met the people. So we tried the farmhouse blend of, what was the Foxtail? Is that what you said?
Yes, Foxtail.
Yeah, Foxtail coffee. It was really good. I enjoyed it. Again, Easton and I are still new to coffee. So I won't pretend to be like the robust flavors. We're all. It was enjoyable. It was nice. Our phrase seems to be earthy. But it was really grounded. Grounded. But I enjoyed it. It was a nice cup of Joe, as they like to say.
It was
so
not quite as strong as the ones that we normally have had. But also that might just be a case of our pour over methods. Maybe this is just a kind where where a different kind of brewing is required. But
yes, we're still starting.
It was still great. It was still good. The taste was wonderful.
I haven't met a cup of coffee I didn't like. Well, that's a lie.
Yeah. It had a little bit of fruit. You know me, I don't like fruity. We've discussed this, but it had a touch of fruit. But for me, it wasn't overpowering. I think it was cherry. I think
I got some kind of cherry.
Yeah, it was cherry, chocolate, and brown sugar.
Oh, okay. Interesting. The chocolate definitely is there.
It was nice.
I don't taste the brown sugar at all, as far as I know.
I didn't either.
Interesting. Of course, like any kind of syrup or sugar in coffee, it takes a lot for me to taste it. So they're probably like,
it's always subjective too, unless it's like literal brown sugar syrup. Like,
yes.
If it's just notes of coffee, it's just because people sit there and smell it and taste it and write what they smell and taste, and it's all subjective. But.
Exactly. So I feel like Michael from The Office. For anybody who knows the reference, I'm like, yes, this is a white. Yes, this is a coffee. But yeah, so thank you again very much for the free sample. Check them out. Do they have any kind of socials, Easton?
I'll put it in the show notes if you want to try the flavor. It's all roast to order. They roast everything in Winter Park, Florida. Amazing. So if you live in Florida, make a trip. They have a few locations down here. I don't know if they have any outside of Florida, but I know they do roast to order online. So
there you go. Support
it. And also, per usual, Carver Coffee, which is great. It was the first coffees that we tried. Go to our show notes, click on that link, and you'll automatically get 10% off.
10%? I mean, come on. That's amazing. In Tennessee, that's sales tax. But also, on those notes, if you want to buy us a coffee, don't forget to check out our link in our link tree to buy us a coffee. We promise that's what it goes to. We're both artists, but we are sustaining ourselves. So it simply goes back into whatever you guys are enjoying listening to.
It'll go back into the quality of the show and the coffees that we feature. And, so if you want to support us, that's a great way to do that for super cheap. It's just the price of a coffee.
It's fine. I mean, everybody buys $8 coffee every day. So
that's true. It's not even a Starbucks coffee. It's cheaper than a Starbucks coffee.
It's cheaper than a Starbucks coffee. Come on now. But the other thing is, if you are in college or anything like that and you don't have monetary, because we understand that as well, just reach out. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you enjoy. If you want to hear about anything from either of our lives or just our thoughts on stuff in general, by no means are we experts in a lot of things, but we will talk about it.
And if you want to hear us talk about a specific subject, I know some things that are sort of on our minds for the future. We want to talk about some film scores. We want to talk about animation. Here soon we'll have an episode on sound production and engineering. But if there's anything in particular you want us to talk on, let us know, and we'll get somebody who knows more about it and have them come on and have a conversation with us.
I love it. So,
all right, everybody. Raise your mugs,
Wee!
be good beans, and drink good beans.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, everybody.
Have a great day. The Artist's Blend theme music was written and produced by Christopher and Sarah Bailey of Well Wishes Productions, a Nashville-based boutique production company specializing in multimedia production, live event contracting, studio, and live vocals. Find Incognita's infamous adventures on Amazon Prime and its soundtrack on all digital platforms.